Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Tron Deadly Discs for the Atari 2600, and it was released by Mattel in 1982. I'm playing this cartridge on a Retron 77, and it's one of those different looking carts for the Atari. It's kind of flat, and it's narrow, and a little angular in the front. They don't stack well in a shelf if you've got a lot of carts that are shaped the same, but a single cart on top of a stack, I guess that works. There were two different Tron games for the Atari 2600, and they were vastly different from one another. This one is somewhat similar to Berserk for the Atari, sort of. Basically, you're in an arena, and you're trying to survive the onslaught of enemies. The arena doesn't change shape like Berserk does, but the basics of shooting a single projectile to try and clear a screen is the same. In Tron Deadly Discs, though, instead of the screens changing and enemies appearing, reinforcements arrive if you don't defeat an enemy for a few seconds. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of a stretch, but they do seem similar to me. Like the movie Tron, you have a disc. This is your weapon. It's a frisbee that you throw at your enemies, and it bounces back to you after it hits a wall. Hopefully, after it hits an enemy on the way out. You only have one disc, which means you can only have one shot in existence at a time. To get good at this game, you'll need to work on your aim and learn to dodge at the same time. The disc always comes back to you, so after you throw it, you just run around dodging enemy discs until it naturally comes back to your grasp. And it's important to note that you can only defeat an enemy on the outward throw, not the return of the disc. This is actually really depressing, because your disc is constantly passing through enemies as it travels back to you. You'll play this a little bit and you'll see this happen and you will think the same thing. You can get hit 5 times in this game before you lose. Each time you get hit, your character changes color. I don't know the color patterns, I don't have them memorized, but it's a pretty neat idea to find a game that does this, because it's a game you really have to pay attention to, and this makes it so you don't have to look outside of the arena for a hit counter to try to figure out what your status is. When the game starts, there will be 3 enemies on the screen to defeat. If you can dispatch all 3 before reinforcements arrive, and you happen to have been damaged already, removing all the enemies will heal one of your hits, and you'll change color. So, the quicker you clear the screen, the better. If you don't clear the screen quick enough, another attacker appears to replace the ones you defeated already. Okay, there's one more mechanic. When enemies appear, they teleport into the arena from a door at the side of the screen. If you throw your disc and hit whatever door opened, it will freeze the door open. If you have 2 frozen doors open and they are directly across from each other on screen, you can run through one of the doors and it will teleport you to the other side. You can only use each teleport once and the doors will disappear. Still, this can be a really useful mechanic if you need to get out of some tight jams. Basically, you're just running around the arena, you're dodging attacks, and you're doing your best to aim and throw as accurately as possible to get points. It's not that this game is massively complex, but there is enough going around on screen to make the game fun. You just keep playing until, of course, you lose, or I guess if you get bored. Also, the disc you throw. You can throw the disc in all 8 directions, which is great. Some games only let you do, north, south, east, west, but this lets you go all the way around the dial. And that's pretty awesome. I'm not particularly great at the angle shots, but the game would be really difficult if you didn't have those shots available to you for sure. There are a few things in this game that I ran into, or that I identified I think are noteworthy. First, your disc goes through people. It doesn't bounce off them and come back to you, it goes through them. It bounces back when it hits the wall behind people. If you're lucky, you can get multiple enemies with one shot. And I swear, this is something I've noticed. Every now and then, one of your enemies will throw a second disc. I really thought I was seeing things the first time it happened, but then it happened again, so just be on the lookout. That is apparently a thing. A few more things to add here. If you bought both Tron games for the 2600 when they were released, apparently there was an offer that you could mail away to get a specific Atari-branded Tron joystick controller. It was clear blue, which is a little bit like the arcade Tron game. I don't know if the controller's any good. I don't know if it's any quality, but the Atari controllers in general, they're pretty simple to start with. But I did see you could buy these on eBay, and when I went looking, there seemed to have been a ton of them available. I don't know, I might get one. Tron Deadly Discs was also released on the Intellivision, and I never had one of those systems, but as I understand it, the game is really similar to this one. Well, that's all I have for this particular Tron game. I'm sure I'll get to the other one eventually. Thanks for taking a few minutes to stop by, and I'll catch you next time.